I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. This is my reading week from the 18th until the 24th of June. I read 8 things this week. I was loosely participating in 2 readathons, the Queer Romance Readathon and the Queer Blackathon, which overlapped a little bit at the start of the week. And by participating in readathons, I mean I was reading books that fit into the overall theme of the readathon rather than actually trying to follow specific prompts, just because at the moment my brain is not cooperating with prompts and challenges like that. So with those 8 books, I read 2,078 pages and I'm up to 290 books for the year. So we're going to jump straight into it. The very first thing that I read this week was Sing Anyway by Anita Kelly. Anita Kelly is an author that Brie has recommended to me, and I do have a book specifically that Brie recommended, which I think is Love and Other Disasters, which I will be reading soon. But Sing Anyway was a non-binary romance novella that was recommended to me, so I decided to read it at the start of the week, and I'm so glad that I did. I have actually already downloaded the second and third books in this novella series, which is The Moonlight Cafe, because it was that good. So this is about Sam and Lily, and Sam is a non-binary history professor who likes to spend their evenings at this cafe called the Moonlight Cafe, and they have a regular karaoke night. And even though Sam doesn't like to get up on stage, they do enjoy seeing Lily, who is someone they've never actually been introduced to, but they admire her courage and her voice and the fact that she gets up and sings and just lets go of everything. And even though Sam has sort of given up on the idea of having a relationship with someone, one night Lily notices them and that sparks the beginning of a romance between them, and it is just amazing. I loved both Sam and Lily and the whole thing was fantastic. Highly recommend. I also read Pack of Lies by Charlie Adhara, which was a review copy I had out on NetGalley. It is a paranormal romance. It is an romance and it features werewolves. Julian is a human who has come to the small town of Mordant Falls to investigate what happened to his brother. So his brother had an accident and was killed, but he'd left behind some notes that mentioned Mordant Falls, and so Julian has come to the town to try and see if he can piece together what happened leading up to his brother's death. This leads him to stumbling across a rundown retreat and the retreat's manager, Eli, who enjoys pushing Julian's buttons. And then there is a bit of a mystery that's happening in the town, and we find out that Eli is a werewolf. The retreat is a retreat for werewolves who have gotten out of abusive and toxic packs and need a place to stay. And eventually Eli and Julian have to team up because this mystery involves a lot of people within the town. And I really enjoyed this one. I think it was a really interesting start to the series. I think the series is called Monster Hunt. It is a spin-off from another series, so there are characters who are mentioned that were part of that previous series, which I would be very intrigued to read about. So it's kind of like paranormal romantic suspense, which is a good combination in my opinion. Then for the Queer Blackathon reading vlog that I did, which I will leave linked on the screen, I read A Taste of Honey by Kai Shante Wilson. This is a speculative sci-fi fantasy novella about a quib who meets Lucrio, who is a soldier from another group of people who have come to his town, and he begins to fall for Lucrio, but this is not something that is looked upon favorably by his people, and a quib is expected to marry for convenience sake to raise the status of his family. He is separated from Lucrio, and then we get his life when he marries his wife and has a child, and the 2 timelines are interspersed, so his relationship with Lucrio is spread out throughout the book, even as we are seeing Aquib get older and older in his story with his wife. And then there is something that happens at the end which I'd kind of hoped was happening, but I didn't expect it to happen the way that it did, so it was very interesting and I really enjoyed it. I also listened to Crimes of Passion by Jack Harbin. This is an Audible original, and this is about 2 rival podcasters who end up having to work together on a series of podcast episodes, and they end up falling for one another. It is an romance. It was great. I really loved the narrators for this. So there was Kevin Free and Ron Butler. They did an absolutely amazing job. There are some sound effects and bits and pieces because it's an Audible original, well worth checking out. I also finally picked up American Dreamer by Adriana Herrera, which was amazing. I've had this on my Kindle for years, so I'm so glad that I just read it because it was great and I really want to read the other books in the series as well. It is about Nesto, who has really stepped into his dream of opening an Afro-Caribbean food truck. He was based in New York City, but now he's decided to try his luck and move further out to New York State and see if he can make a go of this food truck business there. And he does have dreams of one day, you know, having a kitchen and a restaurant where he can prepare this food. It's part of his culture, his heritage, and he's really proud of it. And honestly, the food sounded delightful, and don't read this book without food hanging around because you'll get hungry. When he first moves out to New York State, he meets Jude, who is a local youth librarian, and the two really hit it off. However, they both have qualities about themselves that put strain on their relationship. Nesto is determined to see his dream succeed and to be financially successful, not because he wants more money, but because he wants to be financially secure, and he wants that for whoever his partner is. And then you have Jude, whose family is homophobic, and that has a significant impact on him and his worth and the way that he is in relationships. And so this all sort of comes to a head in the book. So there are some heavier things in here. You have a side character who is dealing with, and there is a death that follows, the homophobia as well as racism from various side characters. So be aware of that going into it, but a fabulous book. Honestly, fabulous. I also read Femme Like Her by Fiona Zed. This was the final book that I read for the Queer Blackathon vlog. This was a sapphic romance between Nyla and Scotty. Nyla has always dated a particular type of woman because she had a bad experience with a femme lesbian in the past, and so she's tried to steer clear of them. However, Scotty sort of blows into her life and they have this one moment, but then Scotty disappears for a couple of weeks, and so Nyla, you know, this is another bad experience, and Nyla just totally is not interested. But Scotty is determined to make their relationship work. So in a lot of ways, it is a second chance romance. It was very steamy, very fun. I thought there were some twists and turns that happened in the book that dealt with some heavier topics. So the conflict in this story comes about from something in Scotty's past, and I don't really want to say what it is because it's a massive spoiler, and even to just sort of talk about it. But I'm very happy if anyone wants to know what it is, let me know. I'm very happy to tell you what happened in the book, and it explains a lot about why Scotty is the way that she is. So I enjoyed this. There was a few little pacing issues, I think, in this one, but overall a very enjoyable read. Then I read 2 review copies that I had received this week. I was very excited for both of them. The first one was Inextricably Tied by Aveda. This I received through the Bonkers Romance podcast as a member of their temple, so I got an early copy of it. It is a paranormal romantic suspense and it is amazing. It is a monster romance and it is a throuple monster romance. My gosh, words. This is the follow-up to Skin. So Skin was a novella that I read last year or this year, I can't remember when I read it, but I adored it. It was my favorite Aveda story that I had read. And this one follows Flint and Harbinger. Flint is a gargoyle and Harbinger is a banshee, and they are partners. Flint is essentially Harbinger's bodyguard, and they investigate magical paranormal crimes. And they are called in by a corrupt paranormal, investigative agency because they have caught a serial killer and they are trying to track down and find out where he buried his victims. And this organization has managed to extract this serial killer's night terror, whose name is Agony, and they trick Harbinger into becoming attached to the night terror. And so Flint, Harbinger, and Agony decide to work together to try and find where the girls were buried. And of course, along the way, feelings get very complicated and lots of things are happening in this book. It was really fantastic. And I think Agony was a really fascinating idea of a character because of the way that he interacted with the others, but the way that his identity is formed by lots of weird coincidences and things. So I really enjoyed the dynamic between the 3 of them. I thought it was great. There was a whole lot of tension. Honestly, my favorite advice book. And then the last thing that I read this week was Bright Like Wildfire by Juliette Cross. This is her upcoming contemporary release and it was so much fun. It is about Betty and Bennett. They both live in a small town in Louisiana. They're both part of a local community theatre production. Betty is a high school teacher. Bennett has just opened his own very boutique supermarket store like a Whole Foods, I think it's compared to. Betty has been harboring a grudge against Bennett since her teen years, almost for 10 years, because he did something that embarrassed her in front of the whole town. But when they are forced together as the leads in this stage production, they're forced to spend time together and to confront the fact that they have amazing chemistry. This one was really fun, really enjoyable. I'm so glad that I got to read it early and that I read it this week because I just needed something a little bit different from what I had been reading. It was a good time. I loved the dynamic between the characters. I loved the side characters. There was a lot going on, but honestly, well worth checking out. This is one I'm definitely going to purchase to add to my shelves. All right, so those are the books that I read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you've read any of them or if you're planning on picking them up in the future. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a flaming heart emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.